Alright, this is going to be a video on how much does it cost to build your motor. This video is going to be specifically the VQ35, and if you want to get even more specific, it's the VQ35DE on all the parts that I have listed here. But pretty much all the parts are interchangeable with an HR motor anyway, so let's get right into it. Alright, so I would just want to start off with a warning here. I would not recommend anything but OEM gaskets. When you think of it and how much money you're going to be spending on your motor, do you really want to put all your faith in aftermarket parts? I don't, and I didn't, so I went all OEM parts, and this is no form of advertisement or anything, but I have seen many cheap aftermarket parts fail, and this is specifically timing chain, head gaskets, other gaskets, bearings, deeper parts, unless it's a extremely high quality part. Obviously your forged pistons and rods and whatnot, but we'll get into the parts right here. Alright, first up, you're going to be looking for some head studs. These are just the ARP L17/ARP 2000 standard head studs. These are going to run you roughly $210. They could go up a little from there or down a little. It all depends on the market at the time of this video. Next, you're going to need some main studs. These again are roughly $200. These are going to be the studs for your block, so these are fine being standard studs. I don't even know if they make really L19s. They probably do, but nobody runs them. Alright, you're going to need bearings. First up, rod bearings, about $100. Main bearings, about $100. And after that, you're going to need some thrust washers. They're really cheap. They're about 10, 12 bucks or something. But you're going to want to get yourself some good head gaskets. So good head gaskets, these are Brian Crower head gaskets. This is what I personally went with. Brian Crower makes amazing parts, so I went with them. The other options consist of Cometic, HKS, Cosworth. So these are all great options. These are going to be the meat and potatoes of your build. You do not want to lift a head gasket, so do not cheap out here. Next up, you're going to want to get some valve stem seals. These will just help contain the oil in your heads and whatnot a little better. These aren't essential, but if you're doing a head rebuild, might as well go with them. They're fairly affordable, really affordable when you're thinking of the big scope of things, so highly recommend those. After that, of course, here's your main components that everyone thinks about. Pistons. So this, I just have Wiseco pistons selected here, roughly $740. And then you, of course, with your pistons, you're going to need some connecting rods. These are just Eagle. These are pretty good. I wouldn't really recommend these over about 600 wheel horsepower, but these are very good for a standard motor rebuild, motor build. For forged internals, again about 560 bucks there. I would highly recommend getting an oil pump. Ironically, in this picture they do not have a picture of a rev up oil pump, so don't think that's what it's supposed to look like. It is not. They have the wrong picture. This is the oil pump for an HR motor 350Z. So, yeah, rev up oil pump, highly recommended. These push out a lot more volume of oil than a standard DE oil pump. If you already have a rev up, it might be helpful to replace it anyway with another rev up oil pump, just to have new parts in there. You do not want to open up this motor later on for any reason. Next up, timing kit. Here I have an OEM timing kit. I do not always trust Z1 Motorsports when it comes to OEM parts. I have got pretty close knockoff OEM parts from them. They did not send me directly from Nissan, so I would buy this from Nissan. So yeah, the timing kit is very expensive. People do not really take this into consideration. So yes, this comes with water pump and thermostat. So you're gonna need your timing chains, tensioners, a sprocket, guides, the chains themselves. You're going to want everything. You just want to do this right. This is a very crucial point in the build. So you do not want to skip out on the timing chain components. Don't go after that $100 aftermarket kit. I've seen so many people do that and regret their decisions. So do not do that. You will regret it most likely. I've tried going down that path and saw too many bad stories. I just returned my aftermarket kit and got OEM. I do not want to put thousands of dollars in the hands of a $100 timing kit. Gaskets. This is just a kind of a rough estimate of OEM gaskets. They have a master gasket kit. It's about $200 something, and you're gonna need more gaskets. They don't give you every single gasket in that kit, so there's gonna be a lot more for a long block build of gaskets. Yeah, belts and hoses if you want to replace those. These I would highly recommend. As far as belts and hoses, it's perfectly fine to get like silicone aftermarket hoses. They are better in a lot of scenarios. As far as belts, Gates and Dayco are a maker of a lot of Nissan OEM belts. So if you find a Gates belt for affordable, I would highly recommend getting it. It's going to be the same thing. They're great belts. Gates, again, with water pumps and whatnot. If you find Gates, be very trustworthy with those, not as far as internals of the motor, but more the outer components and other gaskets and belts. And Gates is pretty much just a belt maker. They make some other parts like water pumps and other stuff, but I would trust Gates, water pump, belts, thermostat, all of those parts. So next up, you're gonna have machining. Machining is fairly expensive. Not many people think of the machining costs when they build a motor, especially when you see a lot of these kits that are motor rebuild kit or forged internal rebuild kit, and you see $2,000. That's just a hunk of crap. Going through this process, I realized very fast that that's not it, and you do not want to put trust in your old beat up 150,000 mile parts to put them back on your built motor. So it is going to cost you a lot more. Balancing the rotating assembly, this is crucial because you're getting different weight pistons and rods. Complete head rebuild. I almost guarantee if you take your heads to be pressure tested and check for a leak down test or leaks on your heads, if you have over 80,000 miles, you're going to have a little bit of leakage in those heads. So I would just rebuild them, not have to touch them later. That's about $500. Piston ring filing. This goes along with more of assembly. So you can count that or not count that. Assembly, I just do kind of a rough estimate of $1,200 for a long block assembly. You can find them cheaper. You can find them a lot more expensive, but this is just a rough estimate of what you're looking at. And to bore your block, which I highly recommend again, because your cylinders from Nissan or from whatever company of car you have, they are not going to be perfectly cylindrical. I can almost guarantee that too. They have different sizes of pistons that they pair up with your size of cylinder. So just getting your cylinder bored out 20 thousandths over pretty much guarantees that your cylinders are perfectly smooth and all your new forged internals will fit exactly how they're supposed to be fitted. And when you do this process, give them your pistons and they will form that block around your pistons. So that is another important part. So that totals in about $2,200 for machining, and this can go a lot higher. It could go lower. You can get your crank regrounded and your journals polished and a lot of other stuff. This can easily go as high as you want. Again, you're not gonna want to cheap out on this either, though. You're spending a lot of money on parts. You do not want to cheap out on the assembly portion. And next, And parts, I just totaled all those parts up that I showed you before. It's about $3,500 in parts. So you do not want to, like, $3,500 worth of parts. I mean, you even subtract that timing kit. It was like about $700, $600, $2,900. You're putting $2,900 in the hands of $100 timing kit. I am not gonna risk that. So I just spent a little bit more there, a little bit more on machining work and whatnot. So, and altogether here, total long block to build it is roughly $5,700. This is a very scary number, but you'll have a completely built motor assembled perfectly. This motor should last you another, a long time. 100,000+ miles on a built motor, especially if this is turning into your weekend car or a racing car. Highly worth it. Just spend the money right. Don't have to do it again. Don't waste your money on cheap garbage parts. If you're going big, go big. And by the way, guys, this is just kind of a standard long block build. You can do a much cheaper. I'll probably even upload another video on how much more affordable you could get than $5,690, because I'll tell you right now, I did not spend $5,690, $5,700. I didn't even spend over $5,000, probably not even $4,000 on this. So I'll show you guys how to get it for a lot cheaper and how to do the whole process a lot more affordably. But this just kind of round off what kind of parts you need to build a motor, what is a built motor, and how much does it tend to cost you for a built motor. Alright, thanks for checking in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.